Hey, hey, hey. Remember, on time is too late. For Navi workers, I don't understand. We've established that on time is too late. So we're going to get off, get on with it. Just that I really like this song. I really, really like this song. So I'm going to play it for like 2 more seconds. Hi, Roshan. How you doing? How you doing? Good to have you here. Into it right about now because I don't. Yudi is a such a busy person that I literally grabbed her into this. So hello everyone, welcome to another NaviWork Instagram live session. Always a great time to be with you. Here we have honest conversations to help you navigate your career journey with clarity and courage. Whether you're a fresh graduate or you are, finding your footing or you're transitioning from one organization to the next, we got you covered. We're here to help you to do this right. Today's session is going to be particularly remarkable, and I'm especially excited about it because we're going to be speaking with someone who has done just that, transitioned. I mean, I know this person from way back, and you're going to help me when I get her to come. You're going to help me welcome Yudee Uzowulu, a trained lawyer, kind of intimidating because she was in my class, project manager and entrepreneur, who's carved a unique path that speaks to bold transitions, resilience, and the power of reinvention. She's here to share her journey, her challenges, and the wisdom she's gained over the years as she was doing all of this. So grab your notepads or just settle in and let's get into this conversation. I'm particularly excited because Yudee is a ball of energy. She's a ball of excitement. She's a ball of inspiration. And this conversation, I know, will inspire you. I know you will enjoy it. I am particularly thrilled about it. So I'm going to try to get her to join because we have a lot of questions for her. And I have no doubt that she's going to tackle all of them with grace and glory. So I think she has already sent a request to join, and I'm going to accept that. I'm expecting to see you join. If that doesn't work, I will invite you and then you will accept it. I saw Kimono Stitches. Hi, Kimono Stitches. Thank you for coming. So we're just going to wait till Yudee accepts our invite. Yudee, let me know if there's a bit of a challenge and I will. Is Yudee still here? Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to try to do this again. I will cancel Yudee's invite. I'll cancel you. I'm going to cancel your invite and then I'm going to invite you. So if you're here, please join.
Hello.
Yay! There you are.
Hey.
Yay!
Amazing
I am
girl.
oh my days. I'm so excited. And I know that we're going to have an amazing time. And like I said to you, let's flow. Let's behave as if it's just two of us gisting in class.
I think people are going to be tired of us because we might forget that there's other people on here where we're just, you know what we're like. We like to talk.
Yes, you have a point. You have a point. You have a
Let's try
point.
and
How are
behave ourselves some
you?
decorum. Let's
Yes,
show some
yes.
decorum.
Yes, we're going to do that. We're going to do decorum because I'm trying to teach Navi workers how to be. But I'm so excited. I mean, I'm particularly thrilled. I'm particularly thrilled about this session because you read law. I mean, just talking about the fact that you were in my class, that tells that you read law, and now you're this IT guru. You have all these awards for your unimaginable strides, and mostly in the IT space. All of those awards that you share with me, I don't see that they're anything that has to do with law. So I think we're just going to try to get into that. Like, how did you transition from all of that? But I have a lot of questions, and I'm going to take my time. And Yudee, just flow. Don't hold back. I normally have a notepad because there's normally nuggets that are released. The last speaker we had spoke to us about goal setting. There's so many things. He talked about forming habits, and he talked about stacking habits on habits. Things that you don't realize that's what make that the things that make other things work is how you stack things on things you're already doing. So a lot of that was learned at our last live session, and I'm truly excited about an opportunity to host you. I see you as such an inspiration, and I'm really grateful. And I know that you're so busy. I know that you had a 15-minute window to join this live, so I don't take it for granted. I know you have a family to run. I know you have a business to run. So I'm going to get right into it
Thank you.
because we did have those questions,
Thank you
and
for having me.
and and then Yudee is the CEO of Ninos. I bought this. Do you still sell those headphones?
No,
Because I know that.
we,
Yeah, you
we
see,
stopped
Yudee has
them.
done so many things. So we're going to talk about all of those. Yudee has done so many things. Now I know they build websites.
Yes.
She does project management
Mhm.
trainings. So please look for her. You can see her and go and follow her. There's so much to learn, and sometimes it's information overload. So you need to pace yourself because Yudee has so much to give and she's always giving. And for that, we are extremely grateful. Yudee, should I let you get a word in before the questions start rolling in?
No, I'm super excited to be here. So, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. I love what you're doing on Navi Work. Every time I get the opportunity to catch up on your videos, I'm like, wow, what a powerhouse. So, thank you for having me. I'm the one who's really privileged to be on your platform. So, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for thanking me, but I know that I'm grateful. So I'll get right into it. I'll get right to it. So you did the lawyer. You did this remarkable project manager that is also training project managers. So your journey from law to project management is quite unique. So what prompted that shift? First question. And how did you navigate the early uncertainties that come with it?
That's a whole lot in there. Okay. So the switch from law to project management was actually quite interesting. So let me take a step back as to why I even read law in the first place. So
Okay.
first of all, I was the first female lawyer in my family. And when you're raised in a Nigerian home where even though I was born in England and a British citizen, I actually am of a Nigerian descent, and I've spent a great deal of my growing up in Nigeria. And you know how it was when we were growing up, you had just the limited options for being like seen as a responsible human being. It's either lawyer, doctor, accountant, engineer, or failure. Those were the options. So it was one of those ones. And as I wasn't good with sciences and I couldn't draw to save my life, I knew that I could talk. I knew that I was quite articulate even when I was much younger. So naturally, law would have been where I was going to end up anyway. But I think at the heart of it, I always had this thing about I want to make a difference. And that was really what drove me into law, apart from the fact that there weren't a great deal of options in those days. And so I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be in a place where I could change people's lives. I was always one for justice. I was always one for trying to make sure that things worked the way they worked. But the older you get, the more you understand your strengths, the more you understand what you're really good at. So I did the whole law thing. And I then found out when I then moved back to the UK as now a fully fledged adult with responsibilities that, and then I had to make a decision am I going to then pursue law? Because it's a different thing here in the UK. There's a lot of things you need to do to switch from law in Nigeria to law to be able to practice law in the UK. And that was like the point where I had to stop and ask myself, okay, what do I really want to do? And so I came back here as an adult, so I just wanted to get a job. So I got the first job that was available, and then I just stuck my head into it and law kind of went into the background. So it wasn't like I jumped from law, like I literally jumped from one marriage into the next. It wasn't like that. It was like I literally, the whole law thing kind of went on a pause. And then I came back to the UK as an adult, and then I just got a job. But the switch to project management, though, was quite interesting because I didn't know anything about project management. In fact, I was just a normal standard person just doing a job, but I was struggling financially and I didn't feel fulfilled what I was doing. I was just a normal working admin person, but there was just always something inside me that made me feel like there's a lot more you could do. And there was always a thing like you had a dream. What happened to your dream? Sometimes in the adulting and when life is lifing you, you forget about your dreams, you forget about your passions. So in that point, I was just all about, okay, how do I stop living from hand to mouth? Because there was a time where I was so broke. I tell this story everywhere where I go to speak that I was so broke I couldn't even afford to buy nappies for my son. At the time, I ended up having to buy, back in those days, they had this thing they call value nappies. They were like really horrendous, would not recommend them. I don't even know why they were in the shops in those days. They were horrible. But anyway, it was that bad. And so I attended a program. And in that program, it was actually a church program. And in that church program, the lady who was the key speaker, she got up and she asked, who here earns more than £300 a day? And people put their hand up. I'm like, am I in the wrong room? This is church. This is not like drug dealers here. Like, how did they, like, what is going on? And they're like, okay, who's earning over 50 grand a year here? People put their hand up. I'm like, these people should cut soap for me, because I don't know what's going on. And then this lady talked about her journey into project management. And she talks about, okay, she talks about how the fact that project management is one of those things you can get into easily without any serious qualifications because it's stuff you already do on a day-to-day basis as in it's intuitive to you. So I actually got into it simply because I wanted to not be broke. That was literally my
That's a
main
good
motivation.
reason.
It's a good reason, girl. It's a good reason because I like the good life.
Yeah, you
I'm a
do.
minister of enjoyment. I love to enjoy myself. So it actually was at that point my motivation was I don't want to be broke. But then when I got into it, I see now looking back, you live life forward, but you understand it backwards. I
Mm,
now see that was predestination at work in me because that's how I
mm,
got into project management. I haven't heard what that woman said. I then opened up my mind to the point that, okay, let me go find out. And in those days, you had to do something called Prince 2, which is one of the main project management qualifications.
mm.
Because I didn't know any better, I went and did Prince 2. I self-read for myself. This is way over 18 years ago. It's not like that anymore. Now you don't even need those qualifications to get in. But in those days, I self-studied because I couldn't afford to pay for someone to teach me.
Yeah.
I taught myself. I read the big books like this because I was inspired to
Mm,
not be broke. The thing I would say about my journey and transition into project management, I think it's really important that I always give this example. You know how, especially in this area of social media, if you decided, for example, that you wanted to buy a red bag or a red Mercedes, let's use something more
yeah.
specific. Guess what?
Yes.
Everywhere you look, red
You
Mercedes
see
everywhere.
red mistakes. Yes.
Why? Is it because suddenly there's an influx of red Mercedes in the market? No. All that happened is that you became aware. You
Yeah.
became aware. You became aware, and suddenly on your social media, you're seeing red Mercedes everywhere you look. It's all that happened was your awareness. So when I now became aware that okay, there's a thing called project management, where I was working at that point, I just went to my boss and said, "Look, I'm interested in this thing." I was like, "Yeah, we do that. We do that. There's a whole function there," and I just lined up myself and lined up with a lady who was very, very, very good. So I just followed her. I basically became her shadow. I was
Mm,
literally like teacher's pet, following her everywhere, doing all her meetings, following her, doing my day job and still supporting her and literally shadowing her. And I
mm,
learned on the job. So when
mm,
she moved on, she was about to move on from that role. She was a project manager. She said, "Oh, I just know the right person that can step into this job." And it was me. So that's how
Wow.
I kind of got my first foot through the door, and I've just gone up since then. So it's not quite like I
What's a
jumped from
straight
one to the other.
line?
It wasn't a
Yeah.
straight line. It wasn't linear at all. It was literally almost like spaghetti junction. So that's
Mm,
how we got into project management. So it was
mm,
broke that we were broke, and that was it. But when I got into it, then
mm,
I then saw that even though the attraction was I didn't want to be broke, when I got into it, I now found out I was in my element. Because
mm.
remember, I said the reason I read law was because I wanted to make a difference. But when I unpacked that, I realized that the real thing about me is yes, I want to make a difference, but I'm someone who likes to make things happen. I
Yes.
like to see things from beginning to the end. I like to see an end to something. And
Yes.
actually, that's what project management is about, delivering things. So
Mm.
yeah, that's why I got into it.
Execution. Yes.
Long-winded story, but yeah, you get
Yeah.
the gist.
Well, I mean, it's good to see that because sometimes people say, "Oh, it's not all about the money." Yeah, we get that, but money can also inspire you
Yes.
to move to the next level. So I'm glad that you're vulnerable enough to tell us that I'm not materialistic, but I like to have good things, and I
Mhm.
figured that this path, would be able to deliver on that desire that I had, and so it is not a bad
No.
motivation. It shouldn't be the core reason why you do everything you do, but it's not. And I know you did, so I know that project management is delivering for her. So yes, so thank you for that. And I like the fact that you talked about history and law. We all read law. I think I wanted to be a lawyer. I think it was because of the wig and the gown, and then I later
Mm.
now didn't like the wig
That
and the
was so
gown.
slay back in those days. We looked like
Yes.
penguins, and we thought we looked. Have you ever looked back at those pictures from those days and you're like, and I thought I looked slay like this, and I thought I looked slay. What was I thinking?
Was I thinking? I know, I know. Yes, yes, yes.
The
So
wig and the
please,
gown.
don't remind me. Yes, yes. So now, looking back at your first job, law or otherwise, what's the one thing you wish someone had told you before stepping into the workplace? Because, like Navi work is all about settling in. And it's interesting because a lot of people, there's the jackpot syndrome going on now. So people are moving, people are getting new jobs, either at entry level or transitioning from one workspace to another. And so all of it has to do with settling in.
Mm.
What would you say is the one thing? Because Navi work is about this. There's a whole book on it, Body
Mm.
Up, on teaching people how to settle down. So if you're not following us, follow us at Navi Work on all our social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Just follow us. And if Roshan puts it up, I'll pin it so people can see it. And also follow Yudee. Roshan also put up Yudee's handle. And Yudee also does some programs, so advertise that as well if you want to transition to project management. But as I was saying, going back to Navi work and Body Up and transitioning, you had your first office. Like, for instance, I don't know anybody told you to shadow this lady that you shadowed, but if you were to look back, something that if you wish somebody had told you, what would be that one thing? Because I have I have questions. We have like 10 questions, and the way we talk, we not take all of them. But the things that are important, especially for people transitioning from college, from another country, from one office within the same country to another, what would be the one thing that you wish somebody told you before you stepped into the workplace
Absolutely.
or into that office?
Absolutely. I think the one thing would be you have to be strategic. You have to be strategic about your work experience. You have to be strategic.
Yeah.
And by being strategic, if I break that down a bit more, so in my particular situation, I think intuitively I found myself in it, but I was quite naive in
Yeah.
how I went into the work environment. So I had to have a few hard knocks to kind of reposition my reasoning and my framework for my progress. But if I could re-advise myself, I would have said be strategic about how you approach work. And what does that mean? If we take away the big word strategic, it's about being intentional. So for many people who are coming in, maybe you've jackbarred, you've come in, you want to think very clearly about where you want to go. Yes, it may mean that you take it. It's almost like a catapult. You remember our olden days catapult?
Yeah.
Sometimes you might have to take a step back to step forward. So sometimes we have people who've come from like much more senior roles before they came into this UK. But they came into this UK and you may have to take a less junior role to what you're used to. But you have to be strategic in understanding that, okay, this junior role I'm taking, it is part of my longer term plan to kind of like a catapult, take a step back to move forward. Many times, in the bid of I just want to pay my bills, we're not thinking. So it's a lot more difficult. So if you just came and said, I'm just going to do anything, and you wound up in, so like if you were a professional, let's say you were a business manager or someone that had like data analysis skills, but you came into this country and because you were under pressure, and sometimes life is life in, you got
Yeah.
to pay your bills. You then ended up doing warehouse work, and that's not me looking down on warehouse work, by the way. It's a means to an end. You have to understand that it's a means to an end, and therefore be strategic in understanding that this is not where I want to be long term. This
Mm.
is just somewhere for me to start, but I have a plan, I have a goal. Now, when you're strategic, what then happens is everything you do is with the end goal in mind.
Mm.
So you're thinking, this is where I'm not where I need to be, but I'm actually on my way, baby
Mm.
steps. Now you then think, if you're strategic, the reason I keep using that word strategic is because it's the best way I could describe it. It enables you to think, what is the gap between where I am and where I need to be? Is
Mm.
it knowledge? Is it experience? Just like our red Mercedes example, when you become aware of what you're looking for, the
Mm.
opportunities that were always there will become apparent to you. But if you're not
Mm.
strategic and you're just sort of doing the hand to mouth, I'm just going to do what's available and just go with it, you lose focus. And that's how come people find themselves in a dead end job that has no career prospect, that has no way forward for 25 years. And then they're
Mm.
frustrated
Mm.
because they weren't strategic. Being strategic will also make sure that you're investing in the things that enables you to achieve your long-term goal. So you
Mm.
might invest in training. You might have to cut out certain things out of your life because you know where you want to go. You may then
Mm.
have to make friends with certain people in your organization because it suits you to line up in those networks.
Mm.
You are strategic in that maybe your organization has meetings, maybe there's a networking event, and you're not really like a networking person. There are people that, girl, leave me alone. I like my couch. Don't
Mm.
call me for anything now with any boss. But because you're strategic, you will show up for these events. You show
Yeah.
up, yes, and mingle because you're thinking in those sort of events is where you can shake hand with one manager and say, I'm interested in project management, but right now I'm in the accounting admin field. But I know about project management. It's in those kind of places that you shake somebody's hand and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I met this really lovely guy over, he was at the drinks yesterday. He's into project management. Why don't we just put him in this role? Because you're strategic, these are all the
Mm.
things that enables you to make better decisions about your positioning.
Mm.
And I wish someone had told me that earlier because if I had, I mean, I still landed where I needed to land, but it could have probably been a less bumpy ride if I had
And
known.
maybe earlier, right?
Maybe
You.
earlier, exactly, maybe even earlier. I am grateful for the lessons I learned because it made me a stronger person. But
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, I think, especially, I find this a lot with people of color. We're not,
Yes.
we just get into a place and we're just coasting. We don't think, okay, what's the next thing? Being strategic will make you think about getting a mentor and a sponsor because they're two different things.
Mm.
Find somebody who can be calling your name in the right rooms. It will help you position your own personal brand. Because
Mm.
a lot of times we're just thinking, I just need to pay my bills. But in a work environment, and if you have to rise in a work environment, being strategic will make you think about your personal brand. What is it people feel when they talk to you?
Mm.
When they spend time with you for half an hour, what is the deep and lasting impression they got of you? Did they
Mm.
feel like you were a person who was warm and professional and friendly, or did they feel like you were a bull in a china shop?
Mm.
So these are the things that we think about when we're strategic. I see it so badly with we people of color. We're not strategic. We just coast. And it manifests in the fact that um, the promotions pass us over a lot of times because we weren't strategic. We were coasting. We missed the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to showcase what we're good at.
Mm.
Yeah, that'd be my
Mm.
one thing.
That's a big one thing. That's a one thing that talked about be strategic, being intentional, getting a sponsor, getting a mentor, developing a personal brand. That's not one thing. That was
One thing.
cool.
It's one big
And I was going to
umbrella thing with some things under.
absolutely, and that's why I was going to say to you, please, if you see me moving away, typing, I'm also taking notes. I'm not, I'm doing Navi work to make impact, to do all of that, but I'm also doing it for me. So yes, I am taking notes as well. So when I said get your notepads or settling, I was also following my advice. So thank you for that. That was a lot, That was because I was thinking for those that are the couch potatoes, even people that were not couch potatoes before, you come into a cold environment, you don't want to go anywhere. You want to go to the job that seems to be paying your bill just about, and then you get back home, take care of your children. That will make you now where you'll now be worn out, and you just want to be on your couch and watch a movie
Mm-hmm.
that will make you fall asleep, and then you start the grind all over again. So, what you said, I was going to ask that question, but you said, determine the gap and do what you need to do to get past that gap. So yes, there may be a lot of excuses to do something else because of the situation you find yourself. But if you're strategic, if you're intentional, that means you have an aim, you have a goal, and we distinguish between a goal and a dream and a desire
Mm-hmm.
last month. And that was, look, with a goal, there's a desire is fantastic because a goal and a dream have the same thing in common, that desire. But what they lack is the steps and
Steps,
how
action plan.
strategic and intentional you are.
Mm-hmm.
All
Mm-hmm.
those things you need to put in place. So thank you for that. And I'm going to go right into it again. So transitioning careers can feel like starting over. And you addressed that a little bit because I know that I felt that way, and a lot of times still feel that way. And I talked to you a lot about it when I first moved. So what gave you the confidence to take that leap? And what practical steps did you take to prepare yourself? Because I say this because when I first moved here, I was talking to you maybe a bit too much because you're a busy woman.
I think I was talking to
Um,
you a lot more than you were talking to me, actually.
so what gave you the bold step? Because I know that we don't have those limitations in the West or the Western world. You're a woman and you're quite successful. And I think we're going to, do the before and after because we normally show nuggets from the session,
Mm-hmm.
but I will also show your awards and sort of show pictures so that people can understand who we spoke to. So you're a woman and you've achieved so much. Why did you think you could? And you're also, if we're both Jesus' daughters.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that your faith in God was a strong push for you to say that with God, nothing shall be impossible to
Mm-hmm.
you. But I know that Yudee doesn't leave it there. I know that you don't leave it there. So I really want to know that what gave you the confidence to take that leap? And what practical steps did you take to prepare yourself? Now, you mentioned Prince 2, that wasn't necessary at the time, but what else did you do? Starting with your mind,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, starting with what gave you the confidence.
Mm.
I really would like to know
What
that.
gave me the confidence? I think what gave me the confidence and the impetus, first of all, was the passion, the hunger in my belly. See, I say this, there's different kinds of people in this world, and you can be in a situation where you're living from hand to mouth and you're okay with it. You're kind of okay with just barely making it. I just wasn't okay with it. I just wasn't okay with it. I just was hungry. I was hungry for more. In fact, the reason I was rushing for this session to come out because I went to the spa today. I gave myself a spa day, and I literally have 15 minutes between when I arrived to join this session. And on
Yeah.
my drive home, I drove past a street where there were very, very nice houses. And I remember that when I used to drive past those row of houses many years ago, I looked at them and I said, the people who live in these houses haven't got seven heads. They
Mm-mm.
haven't got seven heads,
Mm-mm.
really. And I used to say it, and I used to say it out loud. One day, I'm going to own a house that's like this. At the time I was saying it, I was living in a two-bedroom, damp reading flat.
Hmm.
Okay? But the hunger, the frustration of I can't stand this whole I want
It's
to do
life.
something. I
Mm.
can't, this is just not me. There was
Mm.
just something in my belly that rejected mediocrity.
Mm.
There was something in my belly that rejected anything that was below the life. I just had these dreams. I wanted a nice house. I wanted space. I wanted a nice car. I wanted to be able to say, you know what, I'm tired of the UK and this cold weather. I'm gonna get on a plane and go and do and be somewhere warm. That's girl. That's me
That's
all day
what you
every day.
do,
That's
girl.
what I
That's
do
what
now,
you do.
girl. But the point was, it was that hunger, that passion in my belly that made me feel like I can't live like this. And there are a lot of people who tell themselves that it's okay to live like that. And that's fine. That's entirely up to you. But the first point was the passion, the hunger for more, the drive, the ambition that I cannot live like this was number one. Now, when I understood it and I understood that, okay, where I am today, I'm barely able to buy my son's nappy. So, and if you want to be flying first class, people that are doing it, what do they know that you don't know? That was my first starting point, because they know something that I clearly do not know. So project management was one thing that came along my way. But along the way, I started to understand that if you are going to be this person who is able to do more, that change in mindset of woe is really, oh, why is my life so difficult? Why am I struggling? I switched from there. Like there's no knight in a shining hammer on a red, white horse with blue blood. You know those things we used to read in Mills and Bones in those days. They should
Yeah.
ban those things, by the way. They should ban those things. But I realized that there was no knight in shining armor coming to save me, and I needed to own my own future. So I took it to
Mm,
God in prayer. The first point was I took it to God in prayer, because I'm a Jesus girl all day, every day. I'm Abba's daughter.
mm,
I
mm,
said, I cannot live like this. Your word said this, and I refuse to live like this, Lord. Show me what to do. And when you ask God to show you, He will show you. Will He show you He will show you. But just understand that you moving from point A to point B is not going to be like the way you thought. When Mary had blessed are you amongst women, I bet she did not know
I have been
what was coming with it.
studying that. Yudee, I've been studying that. It was after
Ah,
Blessed Are You that she's pregnant and we don't know the father. You know what
exactly.
I mean?
How many people going to go and explain to that it was an angel? They'll be like, see cruise, see gist. What are you telling us? Do you see what I mean? So, first of all, the change of mindset was you've got to do better. What exactly do you not know? So, what then happened with that switch in my mindset and in that understanding that I could do better and I want to do better was that information started coming my way. Just like I read Mercedes' example, books, messages, tapes, information. Some I had to pay for, some I had to go and sit at the feet of somebody, and I just started. But what that did was it continued to feed my hunger.
Mm,
It continued to, sometimes you need to elevate your vision. Sometimes, why did God tell Abraham to come out, step outside, and start
mm,
counting the stars? Why? Because he
mm,
needed him to see his children. He needed him to see it tangibly. He needed to
mm,
elevate his vision. So in that time, whenever I started to feel like, maybe your dreams are too much, I would drive along that road I talked about and go and look at those nice houses and look at those nice cars parked outside to help my vision. I put a vision board together and I put it where I could see it every day to fuel my hunger. So the days where it was tough and I just almost wanted to quit. I wanted to quit because sometimes it's easier to quit. I just
yeah.
looked again and reminded myself of where I wanted to go, and God put that desire in my heart. And the Bible says, no, every good and perfect thing comes from the Lord. He wants to
Mm,
give us good things. He wants us to enjoy our life. But sometimes you have to get off your ass to get it done.
mm,
So
mm,
that was my mindset. And that was what gave me the impetus. I just knew that with God with me, I wasn't going to fail. I might make some mistakes and I might lose my way once in a while, but I
mm,
just knew that my steps were ordered and I knew He was with
mm,
me. And that whichever way, just like a sat nav, sometimes you might take the right turn
mm.
or the wrong turn. He will reroute you and you get back on track. And that's what happened with me.
Thank you. And everything you've said there's sort of like, even though it's not a straight line, it's not linear, but something runs through it. That is that it is not a straight line.
Mm.
For every story you told us, you have navigated, and I'm happy you talked about the fact that there are mistakes and there are failures. Because when we see you, this good life now, private jets sometimes, I'm just tired of where I'm right now. I need to go to a warmer country. And then she's sipping on all those margaritas and sending me pictures. And I'm like, Yudee, stop living my life. So just letting us know that you have failed. And we're going to come to that. But for the next question, I just don't want to lose track of the questions because we're over 30 minutes in. But I need to get all these questions going. So you now run your own business, and that's amazing. I sing your praises as and not because I'm trying to let it get to you, because trust me, I'm not the one that will let it get to you. It's because it's commendable. Not many things spoil many women having our hormones, we being emotional. They
Mm.
say men are more practical, more compartmentalized. But apart from the Igbo blood in you and the Jesus blood in you,
Oh, Lord.
it's amazing. You now run your own business. So what's one misconception people often have about entrepreneurship, especially in the early stage? I talked about how I bought headphones. Really, I even bought it as a birthday gift for some people. So there's some misconceptions you have. I start selling earphones, I now become the number one brand, and wearing my earphones all over the world now. Yudi just tells me she's not selling earphones anymore. So what's one misconception that people have, especially at the early stage, about owning your own business, that you would, I know we're helping people settle in, but you settled in and then you transition to being a boss. So, what's a misconception that people have about entrepreneurship?
I think a lot of times, and I was guilty of that, you are almost naive in approaching things and you think every idea is a good idea. Every idea is not a good idea. And a lot of times I made a lot of mistakes. Christ, I made a lot of mistakes. I got involved. I built an app that nobody wanted. I lost 30,000 pounds on that. And it's never linear. You find I think if we were to call it, there was a theme for this whole conversation, is that it wasn't straightforward. I think the biggest misconception people have is that they think, I'm going to start my own business and it's going to be straightforward and I'm going to become an overnight millionaire. Yay, let's go for it. I've got this big idea. Everybody's going to love my product and everybody's going to buy it. I'm going to be the next Elon Musk. Lie. Lie, 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 lie. The reality is, a lot of times, whatever idea you have, somebody else already had it. If you look hard enough in the market, somebody else already has that idea. What you can do is take the idea and look at what you could do better from that idea. Ideas, they're like birds, they're everywhere. That's why you might have an idea and you do nothing with it, and a couple of months later, someone is taking that same idea and have done something with it, because it's not straightforward. And a lot of times you think because you've got this idea is going to be the next big thing. It may, but chances are it isn't. And as such, one of the biggest problems, misconceptions, is that you just think because I had this brainwave, it's a fantastic idea, it's going to save the world. No, I learned it the hard way. You need to validate your idea, because it's one thing to have an idea. You need to think, okay, what problem is this idea fixing? Number one. Number two, is anybody willing to pay for this problem to be fixed? Because you may have a problem and think, yeah, that's definitely solving that problem. But if nobody's willing to pay for that problem to be solved for them, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I think that's the biggest problem, because when you start up a business, you have that adrenaline. It's like a newborn baby. When you have that newborn baby, like, yes, I finally have a child. Then the child keeps you up at night for 1 week straight, and your eyes are bloodshot, and you haven't slept. Then you now start to rethink all of your life's choices at that point, because life be lifing. So life be lifing, man. Life be lifing. So I think that's the biggest misconception. And yeah, and it happened to me. I lost money and I learned.
Wow. How do you deal with losing money, Yudee? £30,000 is a lot of money. And I know you can say get up and go, it's gone, it's done. I mean, how do you practically deal with that?
Girl,
Because
that was
that
hard.
person, yes.
That was hard, because I borrowed that money as well. That was very, very hard. I think that I came to a point where I understood that, okay, I've made this mistake. I've lost this money. I could sit down and cry, but the money's not going to come back. Or I could learn that, okay, this is a mistake you've made and you're going to have to deal with the consequences of it. You just learn not to make the same mistake again. That was just my output. I just decided this thing's not going to sink me. I've made a mistake, but it just means that I learned the lesson on a small stage. God does this thing.
Thankfully.
I learned it on a small stage. God does this thing. If you look at the life of David in the Bible, why did God anointed him king? Why didn't the day God anointed him king, why didn't they just pluck him straight from the back end of the desert where he was a shepherd, and immediately plug him in to become the king of Israel, the whole of Israel, Judah and Israel together? Why? Because he needed to be prepared. He went through a series of tests. He had to learn. He had to go through different things. So I came to the point where I was grateful to God that it wasn't £1 million that I lost. It wasn't. 30,000 pounds, because I didn't listen. I didn't know any better. I was naive. I made bad decisions. I didn't validate my idea properly. There were a lot of mistakes I made, but I learned. I learned that next time when I get a bright idea, don't run ahead of God. I learned. Now, if I have a bright idea, I sleep on it. I write it down. I sleep on it. I talk to some of my trusted advisors. I check the market research, and then I soft launch to see if it works. And I launch with what we call a minimum viable product, so a small subset. And I learn whether it's workable before I invest more money in it. I didn't do that back then. So I learned and I lost that money on a small stage. And I thank God I did, because then it helped me not to make the mistake again.
Hmm.
So it's painful, I'm not going to lie, but
Yeah. But there's a lot in there. You talk about a small stage, you lose on a small stage. So at least it's a small example. It's not £1,000,000.
it
I think
wasn't a
that's what
million pounds. Yeah.
explains it.
Yeah.
And you talked about even a subset. There's something you said about land. You talked about a minimum
Viable products. It's a term we
minimum
use.
viable
It's a term
product.
we use in technology. So what that
Okay.
basically means is like the smallest. So if, for example, if you wanted to build a product,
Mm.
you would, instead of building the whole product with all singing and all dancing features, we
Yes.
look at the most critical features. Maybe if you had 20 features, but of all those features, you can take a subset, maybe feature one, feature two, feature five, and that's a small subset. It does the basic elements, the corest elements of that product. We put it out there and see how people feel about it to validate our ideas. So if
Hmm.
you were going to build a full product and it was going to cost you, let's say, £500,000, the
Yes.
MVP may cost you maybe 10% of that. You fail
Mm.
fast. You
Mm.
fail fast. So if there's something not right with that your idea, because you're failing fast, you're able to correct it with a small subset, as against losing 500,000 building a product nobody wants.
Mm.
So that's what we call an MVP, a minimum viable product. You
Love it.
small start
Love it.
small. Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. And I like the fact that you talked about starting small and learning small. I remember when I started writing the book Body Up in 2020 during COVID, and I was writing them like LinkedIn posts.
Yeah,
And
you
every time
told me. You told me.
people need to learn these things. These young people these days, they are just frustrating us. Okay. And then at some point I come into the UK, I don't have a job for such a long time. Okay, rather than waste my time, like why don't I just make, and I got a research assistant, she's even here at the time, paid research assistant, put everything together. And I said, okay, engage my editor, I'm ready to do this. Oh, you want to do this? Great. In fact, I want to gift it as a graduation present. I've been waiting for you to come up with this. And then nothing worked. And you're just thinking, it's such a great idea. On the first day, I'm going to have 1,000 people listening in. And you have 20 today, you have 7 tomorrow, you have this, and it can come across as discouraging. And I've learned that consistency was key. And
That's it.
my mentors have said to me, keep doing the things you're doing, the small things
Yes.
you're doing, keep doing them consistently, keep showing up. One day somebody will just bump into the video. Somebody say, I need this person to come and talk to our younger people, because I just thought, and it was really a response to a problem, because
Mm,
most of my friends were, of course, my level managers. They're like, where are these people coming from? And I kept explaining every time. They
mm,
joined your workforce in COVID. So
mm,
they like to sit at home and work. And if they can, they are more delivery focused than eye service, being in the office focused. As far as
mm.
you get what you want, helping the managers now to transition, but also learning that these younger ones have to understand that this is how you work. So I now said, okay, this is probably a good idea. Teach them, because I you know me, Yudee, I hate complaining about something. Let's find a
Mm,
solution. I don't like grumbling.
mm,
So how do we address this, and how do we make them better?
mm,
Because these people are our children's
mhm,
bosses. So if they don't learn, really, these people that we're complaining about now,
mhm,
they're going to
mhm.
be the managers of your
Oh,
kids.
yep.
So if nobody teaches them, like you had the opportunity to learn, like you and I did, that means people that didn't learn anything are now managing my kids. What kind of world are we building for the future? And
Absolutely.
so just being able to, because Yuri has done so many things. Like, I can't even imagine. I don't know if the person on the line, the person I gifted the Ninos headset, and I kept saying, is my friend. We were in law together. She's a CEO. She built headphones. I bought one for myself. I bought them as gift, make a sister proud and encourage a sister. But this is headset that Yudi is saying, what are you talking about, Ameze? I don't even know. What are you talking about?
No, no, but that was a very important part of the journey, because the journey, and that's what we said, is not straightforward. We started out building tablets and headphones, but when you were speaking, there's a word that came to my heart. There's a word in the Bible called phanerosis.
Hmm.
There's a scripture where it says, "Where your light shines ever so bright." There's that scripture. It's called
Spell Fanny Rossis. I need to write it
phanerosis.
down.
So Phanerosis, phanerosis. Now, that word basically means where your light shines so bright, like actually the scriptures, let your light shine so bright that men may see it. That particular word is phanerosis. Now, when you explore that word, it basically tells you, the way I think of phanerosis is, when you start going to the gym for the first time, you may, after like a month of going consistently, you may notice changes in your body. you yourself will notice changes in your body. People might not immediately see it, but you can tell that, something's not quite, I'm different now. My clothes are fitting better. It may be 3 or 4 months of you going consistently before your progress phanerosis. Do you get what I mean? Do you understand? So it's that consistency. So you're saying about Navi work, you're doing what you're doing. Sometimes you may have many, sometimes but guess what? You're showing up. And people somewhere at their subconscious, Ameze does Navi work. And if I ever was in an organization that needs it, oh, there's a lady at Ameze. Because you're somewhere there consistently as a consistent thread in their subconscious. Because we know your videos are going to come out. We know what you're talking about. They may not immediately engage with what you're doing, but one day you will phanerosis and nobody can ignore you anymore. But you've been coming, you've been building on the underground, just like going to the gym. You've been coming, you've been doing the work, you've been lifting the weights. When you first went into the gym, you probably could only lift 2 kg, but you kept going, Before long, you were doing 10. Before long, you were pushing benches. But by that time, it was months of you drawing yourself even when it was cold. But then one day your progress phanerosis. Everybody said, oh my God, look at that bikini body, girl. Your body's ready for the summer. But we were building the summer body in the winter with our big jackets where nobody knew.
That's true.
That's the point. So we keep showing up. Even when nobody's clapping for us, we keep showing up. That's that phanerosis right there.
Well done. I'm typing. So many young professionals feel pressure to figure it out quickly. So I'm glad we talked about I said I was running ahead of myself, but I can't help it. To figure it out quickly. I attribute it to the microwave, where we collect the cooking gas. Now your food can get ready in such a short time. So there is this pressure to figure it out quickly. What advice would you give someone who's feeling stuck or unsure about their current path? And people are relying on you and you want to just do something quickly. So, and I'm feeling stuck. So what am I going to do? What's Yudee going to tell me to do as I'm feeling stuck? And I need to figure it out now, like yesterday, actually. Yeah.
Where's the pressure coming from, though? Where's the pressure coming from?
Peer pressure. Sometimes it's peer pressure. Sometimes it's internal pressure. Sometimes you think people are looking at you when they're not really looking at you, but you're looking at yourself and seeing that in their eyes. I know. Yudee, I know. So yes. So how do we deal with that? I think you started to answer. Yes.
Yeah, it's difficult for you to try. There's a lot you're not going to know from where you're standing. You know that thing, there's that African proverb that an old man sees sitting down, the young man cannot see standing on top of a tree or
That's
top of
right.
a local tree. That's just the reality. There's things you're not going to know until you get into it. I would just say go with the flow. Obviously, go with the flow with a bit of sense. Like, don't be coasting along life and thinking that you're going to win the lottery. No. But where's the pressure coming from? You need to sit with yourself. I like to say, this is an exercise I always encourage people to do. If you feel some sort of way and you're feeling pressure, maybe sit down with yourself for a few minutes and explore, where's this pressure really coming from? Am I the one putting pressure on myself? Is it people putting pressure on me? What gives them the right to put pressure on me? You have to determine within yourself that nobody's going to pressure you and you're not going to be pressured. So the reality is this: there's much you will not know until you get to a certain point. That's why we don't give children the minute they're born a brand new Range Rover, even if we can afford it. It's a recipe for disaster. You have to sit with yourself and understand that it is perfectly fine not to have all the answers. I mean, if I look at myself today, it's perfectly fine not to have all the answers. And most people don't even have all the answers. Be where you are today. Be where you are today. Enjoy where you are today, but be very clear about I want to say be very clear that you're not going to have all the answers, but where you are, at least enjoy where you are. Because
Present.
be present where you are.
Yes.
Be present. Do you not remember, Ameze, when we were in school, when we were much younger, we wanted to be much older. We wanted to be much older. Like, you ask us, like, we were like 16. I got into uni at 16. I really wanted to be a bigger girl. I wanted to be like, yeah. So you ask me how old I'm like, I'm 20. Lie, I was 16. Even though I did definitely I look like I was 16. I really look like I was 16 when I was 16. But now that we're in our 40s, I really wish I was 16. Do you get it? Because now you have is life in you, and you have responsibilities. It is perfectly fine not to have all the answers, and just breathe. Enjoy where you are now. This moment is a moment you're never going to get again. It's gone, becomes a memory. So where you are now, breathe, enjoy it, accept that, yeah, I'm still figuring it out, and that's perfectly fine. When I was 17 years old, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. If you told me you're going to be a tech CEO, I'll be like, yeah, nah, not for me. But here I am, not even doing anything to do with law. But time will tell every story. Time will tell every story. It does. And if you're a person of faith, you can't lose your way as long as you're trusting the Lord. He does say, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge him. He shall direct your path. And that path would mean that wherever you are, as long as you're in his pathway, he will bring you to where you need to be, as long as you're following him and listening to him.
It's interesting that you would say that, because many times, because we're not where we want to be, we're thinking we're not in his pathway. We're thinking, oh, life sucks because we're not where we want to be. But like you said, when we were younger, where we are now is where we wanted to be. Do you remember? I remember that I
Yep.
wanted to wear heels. Like, I used to wear my auntie's heels every time I visit them now.
Now you
In
have so
fact, it
many
was
years, you
so,
don't know what to do with it.
because I don't have any sisters. My mom was in the military, so she wasn't wearing heels. And so when I would visit my aunt, who was like a mom to us, but we used to call her our Muslim mom. We would visit her. I would go to the salon near her house, and I would wear one of her daughter's heels, and then I would walk slowly because they were quite difficult to walk in. And
I
I
can
walk slowly,
imagine.
and
I'm
the
having to take
hairdresser would
that
be like,
mental picture right
this
now.
small girl that wants to grow so fast. Where are you
I
rushing
know.
to? And then Ichoke's older sister, who was a lawyer when we were in Uniben,
Mm-hmm.
she used to say, why does Ameze like wearing all these big wigs, all these old women wigs? Because I really wanted to
That's
be
what you
older.
wanted so bad.
Yudee, now you need to beg me to wear heels. I'm wearing
Girl.
Skechers to support my
Girl.
back.
Mm.
I'm wearing Skechers. Remember, Skechers are
Mm.
great, but they're not particularly the trendiest sort of sneakers, but they are
Mm-hmm.
great. They give great support.
Yep.
My heels, if I even wear my heels, I have slippers that I am
Mm.
very quickly. I wear the heels so that I have heels. I came to look
Yeah.
fly at your organization,
And then you have your
at
trainers in
your
the back.
shindig, but I'm taking them off to slippers that makes me more
Mhm.
comfortable. So where we are now is actually where we
True.
wanted to be when we were much younger. How about we just enjoyed where we were?
I know, right?
How about I just listened to Sister Stella and carried my hair and not
I
be
know,
looking
right?
for big wigs? Why was I wearing all Auntie Amina's shoes
I
and just
know, right?
walking slowly? So thank you for telling us that we don't have to figure it all out at the same time and really quickly too. So a lot of it, I know that is external pressure, depending on who you roll with.
Yep.
But then again, there's also that internal pressure, and the people you roll with, you chose.
Yep.
So anybody that is
Unchoose
not
them.
working on
Unchoose. Unchoose.
on Tuesday. Thank you very much. So thank you so much. Phanerosis, and don't figure it out yourself. I'm still on that. I don't think I'm going to forget phanerosis in a hurry. So in the corporate world and as a business owner, what are some mindset shifts you had to make to grow and succeed? I know you talked about driving down that road, talking about figuring out, but let me let you mindset shifts. Just one or two, because I have other questions.
Mindset shift that I don't have to have all the answers, but I should hire the
One.
people that know it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So I hire the best people. I do not look. I like to live my life easy. So
Hmm,
therefore, I don't have to have all the answers. So I hire very good people who know better than I do.
hmm.
And in that case, they are experts in those areas. So I just hire the best ones. So I have the best people working on my team. So that way I don't to have all the answers. That's just the easiest cheat sheet out of it.
Yudi, but the best people are very expensive. So how do
Says
you do with
who?
the factor that you've
Says
says
who?
who? Thank you. Mindset shift. Thank you.
Yeah, says who? Sometimes the problem is this. A lot of times the best people, they come in the rough. They may not
Yeah.
speak as well as you want them to speak. They may not dress as well as you want them to dress. But you have to be able to see the beauty in that rock, like that art, like D'Angelo, like seeing the angel in the rock. So
David, I read the book.
yeah, exactly. So when you listen to people, when you interview people, I'm looking out for your attitude. I'm looking out for your curiosity. Everyone I hire, there's one thing you would find in constant with them. They have a fantastic attitude. They're curious. They want to learn. You see, the person who's willing to learn is always a good person. And the person who's willing to learn with a good attitude, there's someone who's on the rise. So they may start out today just a lot. They love smart people, but they are like in the rough, might not be the most polished. But you have to take them and be willing to invest in bringing out those elements of them. A lot of people who work with me have been with me for years because when they first started, I could see they had the skill set, but they were like a diamond in the rough. So I had to invest my time in coaching, mentoring to bring them out. And today they're very good and they stayed because they knew that. And I look after the people who work for me because, as I said, I know that I don't know all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I just hire
Mm.
people that do have the answers. So that's been my approach, especially in the corporate world.
I love the fact that you talk about the fact that the best people don't always look like it.
They
And
don't.
that requires patience on the part of managers
Mm-hmm.
to know that, look, I interviewed somebody recently for my an organization that I consult for
Mm.
pro bono, and in my feedback, I said this person is very rough around the edges. I remember that.
Mm.
What seems to me like someone that is innovative. She
Yes,
looks for a problem and she sees a problem and wants to solve it.
solve
She's
it.
not just
That's it.
identifying problems.
That's
She's
it.
looking for a problem. If she stays under the right manager for
She
long
will try.
enough, you will be happy with who you will see. Exactly. She will thrive. Well,
That's
those
it.
were my exact words, that she will thrive. So it's interesting to see that we may not even feel like the best people right now, but we should recognize that we're diamonds in the rough. The
Mm-hmm.
Navi worker, that person just coming out fresh out of school, that person just moving to this organization that they always wanted to work in and now they're here. You need to look at yourself and say, I am a bit rough around the edges for where I'm at right now for this
Mm-hmm.
fantastic organization. But I will remain, you did say, someone that wants to learn with the right attitude. I will
Yes.
remain intellectually curious. I
Yes.
will remain
Intellectually
innovative,
curious.
knowing that I am a diamond. I may
Yes.
not come across as a
Mm-hmm.
diamond right now, but phanerosis will happen really soon. And
Absolutely.
then you will see
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, I am all that. Great. So you can see that I'm
Yes.
listening, Yudee. I'm not playing. I'm not playing, no, I'm listening. So yes, so this I thought we were going to come to this because you talked about how you failed and made mistakes. So let's talk about failure. What's one challenge or setback in your career that taught you something invaluable? You've talked about one. That's the project that you lost £30,000. I need to say that not because I want to glamorize failure, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people say that failure is one of the best ways to learn. I always say I can learn from you this failure. Why must I fail? But if I can learn from you this mistake, and that's why in Navi Work we said we're going to bring a guest every month,
Mm-hmm.
because I definitely don't know it all. And for instance, I learned phanerosis today, and I understand it's a kind of shine that
Mm-hmm.
happens that is so bright, and I've understood that even in a new place, I am a diamond, and if I'm consistent, the phanerosis will happen. So I'm still learning, right? But I have failed, and you're my friend, so you know about my failures. You know what I mean? So what is one failure? And it can come from, because even though you're transitioning a career amidst many things. I miss running a home. And I miss running, because there was a time you were working, you were a paid employee, and you were running
Mm-hmm.
Ninos. Sorry, I'm telling a lot because it's my friends I bring on now.
Mm-hmm.
So I know something
Mm-hmm.
inside. So what did you ever feel like you failed? Like Ninos is dropping, I'm dropping the ball in this as a director here. What is one thing, something that we can take away, something that you failed at, and possibly how you came back up? And if you didn't recover, you didn't recover. We can deal. Yes, thank you.
I think that I'm reflecting on it. I don't think, I think there were times where I felt like I gave more attention to certain things and less to other things. They were just
Mm,
different seasons. So there wasn't a season where I felt like, oh, I failed. I just sort of went through a phase where I felt like I really wish I should have given this more attention because this is important. I think
mm.
the biggest one that comes to my mind is with my kids. So because I was running a business full time and working full
Full
time,
time.
and and my business actually has three brands, and each of those brands do different things. Plus, in fact, it at this point, I think the example in my head is actually the main reason I set up Ninos. So when at this time I hadn't set up Ninos, I was working. I was now a project manager. I was quite senior, and my son, he's 10 now. When I had him, I didn't have maternity. There was no maternity because of the kind of work I was doing. he was literally like 7 days old when I got in the car and started going back to work. And it broke my heart because I realized that it is because I'm working the kind of work I do. And it was again that grief of heart. Like, you know how the Bible talks of Hannah in that grief of heart where she went and she was like, you know what, Lord, I can't do this anymore. And she was crying. It was in that grief of heart that I actually went to the Lord and said, look, we're now doing this project management, and yes, we're making this money, but my kids, I don't spend time with them. They were literally raised by nannies. My son was 7 days old. I literally gave him to the nanny and went back to work because I didn't have a choice, not much of a choice because I was depending on income from that work. I worked right up to, like, I was so pregnant going on the train to Canary Wharf with my big stomach, and I hated it. So then it was actually one of the motivators for me to start Ninos, to start my own business, and God led me down that road. But in then being in Ninos, and the business has grown into 3 brands, and then I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm doing speaking engagements and I'm traveling. There are times where, and it's better now, but that's why I said the seasons. When my kids were much younger, I would look at them and go, huh, I really wish I could have attended that school play with you today. I really wish I could have been there when you were given that award. And in many, many ways, I just always felt like, yeah, But then I listened to this lady. She was, I've forgotten her name now, it's Asian lady. She was the CEO of PepsiCo. And she talked about this exact
Indira,
challenge. I know the lady,
I think.
Indira, thank you.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
encouraged me. It encouraged me that, okay, do what you can every day, do what you can. Every day, give it your best shot, do what you can. Every day, make priority calls. And that kind of took away the guilt because I did go through a season where I felt like, yeah, I don't think my kids are getting the best of me as their mom.
Mm.
And I'm glad to say that's not the situation now because now that work-life balance has kicked in, and plus they're much older now as well. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're very beautiful too.
Thank you, thank
Very,
you. I
very.
do try. I do try.
I mean, you do try.
I
You
do.
do try.
I do
And
try.
I think you have an amazing support system. I remember when I visited you and I saw
Yes,
family. You have
yes.
an amazing support
I
system, and
have
we
my
can't
family. I have
downplay.
my sisters. I have my
Yeah.
brothers. My
Very
sisters and
fun.
my brothers.
You have your fantastic brother-in-law, one of them who is there,
Yes, yes,
and you
yes,
have, and they're always around
yes,
you, laughing, doing funny
yes,
videos, and we can't take
yes.
away the
I do
need
have an
for
amazing
joy.
family.
Yeah,
I do have an amazing, and I'm so grateful for them. So my sisters, my brothers, they all live. All my sisters and brothers live within, 10, 15 minutes of us. We all live
yes,
10, 15 minutes of each other. My sister's husband, Emmanuel, absolutely amazing. He's such a great support to me and my business.
yeah,
So there are a lot of people that I just have family to support me. So, and they support my business. So if I start to feel like, oh, it's really tough because I'm a single mom of these 3 kids, they kind of
mm,
bridge the gap
yeah.
and they help me a lot. So I'm really grateful for them.
There's
Shout
just so
out
much
family.
joy. There's so much joy. There's so much. They're just always
Yes,
around you, and they kept coming
yes,
in and going out and
yeah, we
making
do have
funny
fun. We do
comments.
have fun.
It's really, and family is great. Sometimes you also have friends like family
Yes,
that God gives you, and
yes,
so we
so true.
shouldn't downplay that. We shouldn't take that for granted. That
Yes,
some people don't have
they
that. Some
don't.
people suspect everybody that's around
Oh
them.
God, no.
And they
Yeah,
may be
yeah,
family.
yes.
But I noticed that when I visited you, and I realized that look, Yudee's got something here, and I think I know because you kept every time you introduce somebody, you say, yes, these are Ezekiel's maiden name that are weird and funny like that. Oh, this is my amazing brother-in-law. And so, I mean, so you also commend and, give them that shout out. And
Yes,
I thought
I
there was
am.
a need to give them that shout out right
Yes,
now as well.
yes.
Okay. So thank you, and I think that understanding that it's not necessarily failures, but they are seasons.
Season.
They're seasons to do the grind, and in some seasons, like recently, because of my transition, I've had the opportunity and the privilege to spend time with my kids, and I can tell that where did this car come from, and they're
Mm-hmm.
telling me. This boy opened the door for me. He's very nice. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm available, so I'm
Yes.
grateful. And tells me from what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying that the season is coming, Ameze, really quickly too,
That you're
where
not gonna
you may
have that
not.
time.
So you better
Exactly.
enjoy
Enjoy
this
this season.
because because you're so busy that I never would have thought. Because when I saw you, I know you had started all your other businesses, but I'm not sure you had fully, when I visited you, whether you had fully left the other company.
Mm.
But you seemed available, if you know what I mean. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, does it mean I should really be grateful that I could attend that play. Just to even think, you didn't even seem, I'm hearing this for the first time, that you wish you had attended a play. Yudee, I attend all the plays right now. So I think I'm going to, when I get to the point where they say, oh, mommy, you missed this, I'll say, you know that if mommy could, mommy would.
Would exactly
So
if I could, I would.
just that mommy has got you,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So thank you so much. That's really good for any mommy that's trying to feel guilty, because that's the devil. That my pastor calls it the pesky demon of guilt that tries to make you
So
feel
true.
less than.
Yeah.
Yes. So how do you? Because you're a woman of faith, so I love that, and it rings through in all our conversations. So how do you stay grounded?
Oh God.
How do you stay grounded during, especially during major transitions, whether in career, business, or your personal life? What is your, and of course, maybe because I know you, I went ahead of myself.
Mm.
So, how do you stay grounded? What keeps you stable in spite of the transitions and everything going on around you?
You know, there's a scripture that that scripture that says, because God is in her, she's not moved. That's just a summary of it, because people ask me all the time, how do you cope? You do this, you do that, and you seem to do it so gracefully. Short answer is that God helps me. And he helps me a lot. When I say I'm a kept woman, I am genuinely a kept woman. Like, he is the grounding. He is my best friend. He is my father. He's my mentor. I've learned by I learned the hard way. Like, I have come to a place where I'm not trying to do anything in my power anymore, because it's always an epic drama. Like, that money that I lost, I didn't need to lose it if I had listened. I ran off. I got an idea and I ran off. And when it failed, I said, well, Lord, why did you fail? I said, but did you ask me if it were ready to go? You know, have you asked me if we're ready to start? Because you didn't ask me, you went off on your own. So I think the biggest thing for me is the grounding. The grounding comes from the word of God. The grounding comes from my relationship with the Holy Spirit. He's not an airy fairy person. He's a real person to me.
Mm,
He's my best friend. There is no decision I make that me and him have not sat down and discussed it. So I walk, I walk and run. That's my fitness routine every day. And I have a dog. So me and my dog, we walk and run every day. And that walk and run is really my prayer time, first thing in the morning. And in the evening, I also spend a good hour. The 1 hour flies by, and I just sit in prayer, in the word, just talking to the Lord, running different things by him, listening to him, also studying.
mm,
It's my time to spend with him, to understand what he's telling me, what's the next thing to do. And I cannot tell you how much my life has improved by doing that.
mm.
And the
Bless
Lord
you.
is thank you. The Lord is so intentional about us. I mean, if I use myself as an example, he's so intentional about everything that concerns me, down to even my parking space. Like, if I was going to if I was going to a shop and I know that parking is always a drama, I say, Lord, you know your girl. I cannot be driving around looking for parking. It's not my strength. And he's intentional. Like, I'm pulling up and the car is pulling out in that moment, and everybody else is looking for car parking, but I'm getting there in the moment where somebody's pulling out. He's that intentional. Like, I could tell you
Mm,
so many stories where the Lord has shown me that I'm not alone. Like,
mm,
if I gave you some stories, the hair on your body will stand up, because he's
mm,
that real to me. So the grounding is the Holy Ghost. The grounding is the word of God. The grounding is, I don't have all the answers, Lord. And there are days where I'm tired. The days I'm
mm,
like, Lord, today, please, And sometimes he'll say, Yudee, take a break.
mm.
Sometimes the Lord will tell me, Yudee, take a break. Take 3 days, go somewhere. Let's go somewhere. And I'll just go and sit on the beach and just do nothing but he's so real, so loving, so intentional, so wonderful,
Yeah.
So he's the grounding. He's the
Mm,
grounding. He
mm.
is.
Amazing, amazing. So I knew the answer, but I knew them to hear it. So, what are some habits or systems that help you stay productive and focused as a project manager and entrepreneur? So, at this point, also, I would also want you to talk about the programs that you run, so that when anybody goes back, because I know you're going to run it forever. So that anybody goes back to the video, they can see, even though Yudee always shares something really not rocket science, and I said, Yudee, this is not rocket science. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about. She says it's really not rocket science. So I mean, so yes, the habit systems and all of that. But I also want you to, in this answering this, what are the habits and systems that you have put in place to help you stay productive? I want you to talk about the different project management boot camps and stuff that you do, and how we can go to your website and find out about those. Yes.
Okay. So what helps me stay productive is that I'm actually quite naturally an organized person. So and on my phone, I sort of have I sort of start with a year plan. This is what I intend to achieve in the year. So I keep it very high level. Project managers are organized people in that they work to a plan. The plan is the script. So I use the same model. I have a plan that, okay, by the end of this year, this is what we're going to do. But then I break it down into smaller chunks, which is as much as, okay, for this week, which fits into this month, which fits into this quarter, which fits into this year, this is what we're going to do. So I work backwards. So, and I always encourage people who are looking to work a plan, work backwards. If the end goal is, I want to build a house, work backwards from there. Like if the house is the end goal, what do I need? You know, you work backwards from there to the point where you know that you need to buy fuel, you need to buy paint, you need to buy land. So it's the same thing. So I'm structured. I have a plan, I have goals, and I just try as much as possible to take things off my list. And I'm flexible enough to pivot if I need to make a change, like it didn't go the way, maybe I'm going in this direction and the Lord says that's not the direction, we're now heading in this direction. I'm not
Mm,
rigid or stiff-necked like the Israelites of those days. I change direction
mm.
as the Lord, who's my boss, leads me. But in terms of project management, can I just say, before I talk about I want to talk very briefly about what made me stand that up. So, because of the way I came into project management, and because someone talked about it, I actually learned a lot of lessons along the way. And then I started to see that there was indeed a need for somebody to be able to hold people's hands and help them get into the project management space, because I call the organization really not rocket science, because project management is one of those things that is really not rocket science. It's one of those things that a lot of the skills, apologies for the noise in the background, that's
We
my
know the
annoying
dog.
puppy. Yes, everybody knows Milo. But the point is, the whole idea about really not rocket science was to help people to transition into project management. And just apart from the ones that you just learn on Coursera or LinkedIn, it's a lot of times people are smart. They can read a book, they can attend a webinar. But what's missing is that hand holding of, here's how to apply for this job. So this job, is this a right job for you to apply at your level? A phone call to say, I need to go through an interview. Is this the right interview for me to be even going for? Sometimes you need someone to give you a pep talk. Sometimes you need someone to walk you through what to say at every point in time. So that's what actually made me start reading Not Rocket Science, because I knew that I would have really liked if someone was available to do that for me. So I've got now 18 years under my belt. So there's very little that I don't know. So I started out actually just training people here and there, like, oh, someone is looking for a job or they're struggling financially. And I started, right now, I've trained over 500 people into project management careers successfully. Some of them are senior program managers now. So that's how come I started really not rocket science. So because of that, I now run these boot camps. And as Ameze says, I'm incredibly busy. So finding 6 weeks in my schedule to run a boot camp is no mean feat. But what I do in these boot camps is teach you the fundamental principles of project management, and then you get to do the apprenticeship in my organization. Because for a lot of people, they can read, they can close the gap in their knowledge, but how do you now prove it in your CV? Because here in the UK, if you don't have that UK experience to show on your CV, your CV is not going anywhere. So we close that gap. We tell you what your CV should look like. We guide you and coach you through the process. And because this for me is a labor of love, I try to make the classes very small, no more than 15 people in a class, so that it's an intimate experience. So I get to actually know you one to one. So at the end of the 6 weeks, some people even start getting jobs before the 6 weeks is over. Because the whole idea is, because I get to know you, I can actually say, you know, Ameze, in the course of this 6 weeks, I noticed that you had this particular skill set. Maybe you should highlight that a bit more. Or when you're going for an interview, talk about this, talk, because I know you. And I couldn't do that if the class was 100 people. So I'm
Yeah.
quite targeted. It's a small class. We train, we coach, we hold your hand through the process. We help you. So
Mm,
it's then you have a relationship with me where if you had an interview, you can just ping me and say, look, I've got an interview, and I can find time with you to prep you because I know your personal circumstance.
mm.
So that's the whole idea of really not rocket science. And Our next book camp is at the end of June. I think we've already had people on the waiting list because we tend to always have people on the waiting list. So if you are interested, just check on our Instagram. I think someone's already posted my Instagram handle. So yeah, if you go on my
Mm.
Instagram handle, it's really not rocketscience.co.uk. You should be able to find out everything you need to know about
Thank
that.
you. Thank you so much, Yudee. Thank you. Finally, finally, and I promise you this is finally. What would you say to a fresh graduate or someone switching careers who feels behind or unqualified?
That's my
What would you say?
syndrome thing telling you you're not qualified. The reality is there's a lot you probably don't know just now, and it's okay not to know everything. But I think I answered this already where I said there's no pressure, there's no rush. As long as you put one foot in front of the other every day, you
Mm,
have a naturally curious disposition to being the best version of yourself,
mm.
things tend to come together eventually. They eventually tend to come together somehow.
I think that eventually is the problem. I think we wonder when is eventually. And as successful as Yudi is today, because she's my friend, I know that Yudi also feels she has not gotten to her eventually. Forget all your
That's true.
you know,
That's
so
true.
how do we deal with we're not at eventually yet? Because we know, especially people of faith, me, Jesus, God, I know that all things work together
Mm-hmm.
from God. I know that my end is glorious because I know that my path shines brighter. I just know from scripture and I have believable references. I know where I was before. I know how far he has brought me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mostly say, see how far he has brought me. But I think the major question is, how do we deal with eventually?
Well,
Not
eventually is always
knowing.
a point in time, though, is it not? My
It is.
eventually 3 years ago is very different to my eventually now,
Yes.
and my eventually in a couple of years' time is going to be different. I think the key thing is enjoy the journey
I
where we are
agree.
now. We
Mm,
shouldn't be so busy. I mean, all of this, all of this that I've been talking about, being excited, about being passionate, about having fire in your belly. I do, I get it because I'm one that's very passionate about what I do. But don't be so busy chasing after the next thing. You forget to enjoy the way you are now. Enjoy the season you're in now. Enjoy your journey on the way to the next eventually.
mm,
Because really, where's the pressure really coming from apart from the one you really put on yourself?
mm,
And why are you putting the pressure on yourself? As long as you're alive, you have air in your lungs, you're healthy, praise
mm,
God. And
mm,
you are following the leading of God. And sometimes He leads us by some. I'm like, Lord, you could have made this thing a lot straightforward. You could have just told me that we're going through a valley. You could have told me there was a valley. You didn't tell me this. Now we're in a valley. But the point is, we have to trust the leading of God. And we know that no good thing is withheld from us. But as we're on the journey, enjoy the journey. Just keep going. And before you know
mm.
it, think about the things you prayed for 3 years ago. Many of them, you're in it now.
Yeah.
Sometimes you forget that where you
Mm,
are now, for many of us, we prayed. For some people, they prayed and fasted to get the visa to leave where they were to come here. They're now here. The next thing is, I need to get that 60K job. I need to get that 70K job. The same God who was faithful enough to help you get the visa despite all odds, is He not also able to take you to the next spot?
mm,
So let's just relax. Let's breathe.
mm.
Take a deep breath and enjoy the journey.
I am reading. Somebody just posted. This is Zivonkili. I think one of our followers, added followers. I think she's in Zimbabwe. She said she's about to make a career transition. It's scary. So just in wrapping up, I know I did say finally. Can you let them know? Because I've talked about how successful you are and everything. Can you let them know that you did it
Of
afraid?
course, I didn't
And
have. Did I just say I didn't have all the answers when I stepped
but
out? And even
you didn't
sometimes,
sound really scared. You didn't sound like you were scared. You sounded like I didn't have
well,
all the answers, but I was rolling.
I had moments where I was absolutely petrified. But then again, I came to a place of understanding that I'm going to do it trusting God. And that took away the fear. I did it trusting God. I did it knowing that, okay, Lord, it's me and you in this business together. And it's for your glory. So if I fail, it's both of us. So, and I know you do not like to fail. So
Mm.
let's just do it.
It
So when
doesn't
I,
fail. It's not a function of
exactly,
life. It just
so there's
does
no,
it.
it doesn't fail. So I'm like, okay, so we're doing it together. So I didn't try to do anything in my own ability. And the times I tried to do stuff in my ability, that's when it went wrong. But I
Mm.
learned very quickly that
Mm.
I'm going to stand on him. I'm going to lean completely not on my own understanding. And yes, like how Bible talks about Peter, how he walked on the water. He walked on the water, but the minute he took his eyes off the Lord and he saw the boisterous wave, guess what? He started to sink. And
Yeah.
if he didn't call out to the Lord, and the Lord reached out his hand to pull him out, he would have drowned right in front of the Lord. So it's perfectly fine when you're stepping out in faith to have wobble days. I call them wobble days. And the days
Mm.
I have, and I still have wobble days. I even had one yesterday. I had a wobble day yesterday, and I said, Lord, today, do we have to do this? Why can't I just close my eyes and wake up and become a billionaire? Why do I have to work? I had a wobble day yesterday, but today is better. Today is better. It's a season, you know.
Yeah.
It's a season. So you feel afraid, but don't give in to the fear.
Mm.
Don't let the fear take over you.
Mm.
Because when let the fear take over you, then that's when you start going downhill and you start sinking.
Yudee, this session was packed. Like, I don't, let's just say I got more than I bargained for, and in a good
Oh.
way. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I don't even like, wow. Wow. And I must say that you did it so effortlessly. It was rich, it was refreshing, and it was just a rich and refreshing conversation. I knew we were going to flow, but to be honest, I found myself wanting to take notes than gisting because you were saying so honestly, you were. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so generous with your story, for your insights. I'm trying to look at the things I wrote, how you reminded us that our careers are not a straight line and that courage, curiosity, and clarity can take us far. You talked about your faith. I'm grateful that because Navi work is born of God. So we are happy to see that things that are born of God do overcome. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone watching. If you're navigating and a new beginning and wondering what's next, or just need a reminder that you're not alone, please go back to the NaviWork video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're here to help you on that journey. We have people that have contacted us personally to coach through something. I'm going back to work after maternity leave. I've gotten a promotion I don't even think I deserve. Those kind of pep talks and conversations. We're here to help you through that. So please go to the YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch a video. Don't just subscribe and don't watch a video. I hear that if you subscribe and don't watch a video, it's not counted. So watch a video and you will find the videos to be very, very engaging. Don't forget to follow us and share this live with someone who you know needs it or who you think don't need it. Also follow Ninos. Just look for Yudee. Google her. I mean, it wasn't even hard. So go on Instagram. Ninos, I think Roshan pasted the handle. I'm just going to scroll back a bit so that people can grab it. And I'm just going to pin that because I saw that Russian, but I was too engaged in the conversation for me to pin it at the time. But at Ninos, is it still Ninos Global or is it just Ninos?
It's the Ninos group, but if you find me, you probably find
Yeah.
it. It's like if you
So
find me, you
please go
find
and follow. She has all these. You post those your walks when you're talking, those talks.
it.
You post them. Yes, and
Yeah.
those are very, very good pickup words. Just help you get up in the morning and say, come on. And it's usually on those her walks sharing revelation that she got from God. Fresh out of the oven. So please follow Yudee, follow Navi Work, follow Ninos, follow Really Not Rocket Science. I always tell her, Yudee, this thing is rocket science. Just how it's really
It's not. Hi, Sim. I see one of my girls, Sim,
yeah.
on the call.
Yeah.
Hey,
I also
Sim.
see, I thank everyone who has joined, all you, these family members and friends that joined. Thank you, Diola, for joining. Thank you, Ayo. I saw you. Thank you, Sibongile. Thank you, everyone that just keeps showing up. I'm sure that when Naviwork is the thing that we thought the thing that we believe it will become, we'll be able to remember that you guys were, always here and, willing to pass to the next generation. So don't forget to follow us. Until next time, if you listen to everything Yudee said, keep growing, keep learning, and keep showing up for your future. Keep growing, keep learning, and keep showing up for your future. Thank you so much, Yudee. I'm going to call I'm going to call you right after this. I'm sure you know.
I know. I really
Thank you.
enjoyed being
Thank you
here.
so
Thank you so much,
much.
Amazing. I'm so delighted to be here, and I hope that the session made a difference for someone. I even sitting here, I learned a lot just listening to you as well. So thank you, and keep up what you're doing. You might think nobody's seeing it, but people are seeing it, and it's making a difference. And like you said, it won't be long. We'll be talking about your phanerosis moment where we're like, wow, like you remember in those days, suddenly you'll be booked and busy. But it will come to pass because the key is consistency and you're doing a great job. So
Thank
keep
you.
it up, keep watering people, and God will see to it that you're watered as well.
Thank you.
So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I will take you up on that. You and God, my phanerosis moment. Thank you. My phanerosis moment. Thank you so much, guys. Guys, give Yudee all the love. All of the love and everything was going up even while we were on. We're going to upload this video, of course. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. And then we'll be posting nuggets and tidbits so you can hear Yudee and posting pictures of her, the life that she has now, so that you can know that it's doable. Thank you so much. God bless
Thank
you,
you.
Yudee. And I'm going to
Thank
call
you.
you right now.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Thank
Bye,
you. Bye.
everyone. Bye, Navi Worker.